Scott, wondering,
Yeah.
you've been through this quite a few times outside of Sacramento, but you had a little taste of this a few years ago. How different was it to go through it and kind of see the reaction of Sacramento fans who are so incredibly passionate, who are just praying that something will turn around here, and kind of seeing that play out in real time?
You get so caught up into what I'm doing day to day on the phones. I probably didn't get a chance to listen to as much of the noise. I mean, you're very aware of all of the fan reactions and things. I mean, I may get a snippet here or there. It's important for me just to keep my head down and do what I feel is best for the organization. But that's why it's important for me to come out here today and kind of share my thought process, so hopefully that the fan base understands and has confidence in what we're thinking and doing, because I know we do. And I've been a part of organizations that have been successful when you attack it that way. But it's exciting, though, to know that you have a fan base that's very invested and emotional in it. And so that's an exciting thing. And so I enjoy that part about it. I embrace it. But, I would always, push pause for whether it's fan base or, all of us internally within the Kings organization. We're never going to make moves just for the sake of making moves and be in the 24-hour news cycle. Oh, we made 4 trades. Well, if that doesn't make sense to the overall vision and the direction we want to go, we just were part of a news cycle for 24 hours, and then we have less direction coming out of that. We still have clear direction of which way we want to go.
Hey, Scott.
Yes.
Couple of questions for you. So the first one is, obviously, the Keon Ellis saga in Sacramento is over. Can you maybe shed a little bit of light on why he wasn't able to extend here, or why a deal was never able to get done with him? Obviously, moved in the Dennis deal, but maybe shed a little bit of light on that. Obviously, he was a fan favorite.
Yeah, no. First of all, I enjoyed every minute working with Keon Ellis. True class young man first, and very solid basketball player. As I alluded to earlier, we had a lot of guards on the team this year, and one thing that played out, obviously, there was inconsistent minutes for him, and so he never, I felt this year, and I'm sure he would concur, was able to get a strong foothold in a role here. And so you make a decision that way. So, a lot of times, and I've said here a lot of times, you're going to lose solid players in the process when making deals. And so, again, we needed to get bigger. We needed to get, some more size and length here. That's what DeAndre brings. Keon is going to, have a good market, I'm sure, this off season. And so you weigh, what that number may be. If we come back with pretty much the same roster, is he playing? What's his playing look like for us here? And so that's what I knew we needed. And we made the pivot to say, okay, let's get a little bigger, a little longer, more athletic. And it's still on a short-term deal in bringing DeAndre here. So we'll see how DeAndre fares and how he fits in here, and we'll make that evaluation the next season. It's because that move, again, whoever we draft, hopefully we're in position to get a high draft pick. And so it was important for me to have a roster that's going to be a little more balanced. Okay, what does DeAndre look like alongside a guy like Keegan Murray who hasn't played? Because if you look at a lot of the teams now, especially your better teams, they're longer, they're more athletic, they got more two-way players on the court. We still need to add more. We just at 2. Keegan Murray was the only one we had until we made this trade.
And then just looking at the league kind of as a whole and building the sustainable winner that you guys have talked about, it seems that is best done through the draft, especially recently. How important is draft capital in your grand scheme here in Sacramento, and is that kind of a primary focus in the next year or two?
Draft capital is extremely important. Obviously, this is a big draft coming up for us. Obviously, the season hasn't gone the way we wanted to in terms of wins and losses, but maybe the silver lining becomes we get a high enough pick where you can get a difference maker when the draft comes. But it's very important. So that's why, in terms of being patient and prudent, those first round picks are huge pieces in terms of being able to build out. So one of the things that we have to be disciplined and resistant to, look, we have some higher salaries on our roster. Well, most teams are going to ask you for a first round pick or two to take on money. Well, if you do that, then how do you build? If you give away that draft capital. So we have to remain disciplined in that manner to make sure that we're able to draft. And if we can add some more picks, that would be great too. But we're not. We haven't been able to do that yet. Hopefully, we can do that along the way too as we continue to build.
Hey, Scott, back here.
Yeah,
got two for you. How are you? First off, when you signed Dennis at the beginning of the season, you were up there and said basically that he's a guy that we want to model after. He's the type of person we want to bring into Sacramento. And now, a couple months later, here we are.
Yep.
What changed?
Yeah. No, first of all, and he is he's competitive, he's tough, he was all those things. I think, like you said, as the season unfolded, and you just see the fit didn't work. And so that happens sometimes, So it has nothing to do. He didn't change as a person at all. Like I said, he did what he was capable of doing. Unfortunately for him and us, we had a lot of our guys that we thought he was going to play with missed a lot of time too. So then you pivot, and I think that's one of the big things, most important things in this position, is being able to recognize and the ability to pivot off things you're doing. And I thought we pivoted fairly painlessly in doing that, and so we move forward.
Second one for you is, what's the future of Domantas Sabonis with the organization?
Well, he's here. He's the Sacramento King right now, so that's his future. We expect. We haven't been able to really watch him much this year. Like as I mentioned, he's played 33 games. He's missed 33 games, so what's that, about 17, 18 games this year that he's been able to play. So looking forward to hopefully having him out there enough the remaining part of the season to see how he fits. I had a great deal of respect for him coming in. That has not changed. From my perspective, I've enjoyed getting to know him, not only as a basketball player, but as a young man, and I've enjoyed that time with him. So his future is with the Kings right now.
Hey, good morning, Scott. This is the third year in a row, first under your front office, that the Kings have found an undrafted player and elevated them to a full-time roster spot. With the strain of the CBA, with the strain of the salaries that are on the books, how important is it with the back end of finding those guys and developing them? And can you speak to the process that's gone on between you and Stockton and the front offices working together to come out with these positive players?
Yeah. Obviously, I can't comment on what preceded me. I recognize that, and that's a tremendous job. But I think it's extremely important of where we are today because, as you mentioned, and the best way to improve your team is usually through the draft. But when you draft young players, it takes time to develop them. Drafting them is one thing, developing them is another. And in Dylan's case, he goes through, and he's not one of the 60 guys picked. Kudos to our scouting staff. We quickly pivoted to him. I think we were the only team that offered him a two-way. Everybody else was talking about Exhibit 10s for him. And so we saw something in him. Now, when he came in, he bought in. He's continued to work extremely hard. His time with Stockton was excellent. Kudos to Gabe Harris, who's the GM of our Stockton Kings, Will Scott, the head coach, Jason Maxill, who's an assistant coach, a former big man that I drafted years ago in Detroit. So there's a mission to what we want our big men to look like. And so we want him to be tough, physical, and Jason has done a great job with him in terms of the mental aspect of that with him. There's been a lot of drilling going on with him to improve his free throw shooting. You know, he's got a long way to go as an offensive player, but that's okay. I worked with a guy for years in Detroit who never was considered, quote unquote, a great offensive player, but he was impactful offensively because you had to block him out, and that was Ben Wallace every time. But he was elite rebounder, led the league in rebounding, and one of the best shot blockers, and his toughness and his energy permeated the roster, the more talented guys. And so Dylan, I'm not sitting here saying that Dylan is Ben Wallace today, but he's doing some of the things that you like to see from a great defensive big. He's just starting, he's just scratching the surface. So now it's incumbent upon both us and him to keep getting better and not just feel good that he just signed his contract yesterday to become a full-time NBA player. Now what do you take it from here? How great do you want to become? And sometimes that's can be a great fortune for a team in the front office when you can get a guy who was undrafted. You know, like I said, I use the example because I lived with him so long when Ben Wallace was an undrafted player. And we had a couple on that team that we ultimately won a championship with. So just because a guy's not drafted doesn't mean he can't make it, but you got to get the right person, mindset, and then you got to do your job as an organization in pouring into them and developing not only their skills, but again, their mindset and approach to becoming the best NBA player they can become.
Hi, Scott. How are you today?
Hey, how you doing, Jason?
I have a couple questions for you as well. Talking about patience, this is a city that's been asked many, many times every year over the years to be patient. Mm-hmm. What do you say, to fans, to really the organization about the importance of that, how you achieve it, and really maybe most importantly, how do you achieve that in an organization where patience and prudence has been lacking at times?
Well, I think if they take a step back and look around the league at some of the teams now that maybe are at the top of the league or consistently competing to win championships, that very few, I don't know of any what I call overnight successes that somebody comes in here and in 9 months, all of a sudden they're a championship team. You're talking years of drafting, developing, trading, guys working, not working. There's a lot of moving parts. So, and I understand the frustration of the fan base. Again, we're in a society, people want things now. You want to win. But what I would submit is that what we're doing, again, is we're not going to just chase shiny objects for the sake of doing it or make deals for the sake of it to say, to try to stay in the middle. This process that takes a little longer with the drafting and developing is the more solid foundation, in my opinion. It's not, we're not trying to become a team that's hanging in the playing realm every year, because that comes frustrating too. You get a lot of people that are in that with that middle area, and you've heard this a lot in sports. That's probably the worst place to be when you're just stuck in the middle, because you have no way of ascending and you have a quicker way of falling back too. And so that lends a lot of frustration, in my opinion. So we're going to do this the right way, because once we get there, then I want this fan base to be able to enjoy a sustained presence maybe in the playoff basketball versus, okay, let's get here one time, everybody cheer for the 1 year, and then you're gone again.
Okay, and the other side of that question was, not just the fans, but within the organization, how do you achieve that, and from top to bottom? And then, along those lines, like, how does it kind of impact the way you look at Doug's job, for instance, in terms of what he's doing and how you build this roster over time?
Well, internally, when I took this job, that was the big discussion point for me, is that everybody would have to buckle up and be willing to row in the same direction, stay in the boat together, go through the difficult times. And so that's why I'm here, because there's an alignment from ownership to all other key stakeholders in the organization. So I'm comfortable with that. They get it. They understand it. Look, the competitor in us all would like to walk out from the arena every night and into the locker room with a win, but that's not happening right now. We got to, and so that's where that is at. And the second part of your question was about Doug? Oh, well, look, I've said many times, this is Doug's first year as a coach. I really enjoyed working with him, his energy, his passion, not only for the game and to get better as a coach, but he has a passion for this community, as you know. I mean, he was a star player on this team years ago and extremely invested in the community. Now, with that, but knowing him being the first, there's a lot of learning that goes into that, and I think he'd be the first to tell you he's right in the midst of a learning curve and being a head coach, and that's not just coaching the game, that's managing the staff, that's working with front office, that's all those things. So, but he's approached it with the appropriate mindset or demeanor, I would say. And so, but nobody wants to win more games than him. And I hope he wins as many games as he can this year. I really do. I know people will say, oh, well, it might affect your draft status or whatever the case may be. But I'm a believer when you get to the lottery, there's luck involved, as we all know. And it's, dependent upon where your percentages lie. And just hopefully, when we get there this year, we'll get some good fortune.